Watch this. Every time we play her, there's this commotion, like this loud rumbling from the stands. Turns out it's people, thousands of them, just sitting there watching on purpose. It's very disruptive. She says WNBA games used to be a chill, quiet place.
Why is a professional athlete complaining that fans are too excited to watch the game? That's exactly what Brittney Griner just did. And what she implied about those fans left everyone stunned. It started with one baffling statement. Griner claimed the WNBA used to be a peaceful, small thing. A place where players could relax, where you might even bring your laptop and get work done during the games. But now, according to Griner, the new crowds are too loud, too disruptive, and ruining the experience. Let that sink in. In an era where athletes beg for bigger crowds and attention, here was one of the league's biggest names complaining that fans were showing up at all.
She says WNBA games used to be a chill, quiet place. You could bring your laptop and relax, maybe even get a little work done. But now, it's like there's large gatherings of people watching us from the stands. Some of them are yelling crazy shit about what they're seeing, putting unfair pressure on us to score, like we're there for their entertainment. You are! The whole thing is toxic. I saw a guy with his daughter.
And it didn't stop there. Griner described seeing a father and daughter cheering from the stands, and without knowing what they were saying, she assumed it was about her performance, or worse, light racism. Yes, that's the exact phrase she used. The assumption alone was enough to outrage many. Families are packing arenas to support a league that struggled for relevance for over 2 decades, and now they're being accused, indirectly, of something far more sinister for simply being passionate fans.
So the WNBA says they want to get paid more. They're saying this year they're going to make $1 billion. That's what they're saying, okay? For the first time ever. Now that Caitlin Clark is hurt for 2 weeks, did you see ticket prices? Insane. Let me read you the ticket prices. After Caitlin Clark's been hurt for 2 weeks. All right? So let's go through boards. Via TickPick, prices for 2 specific Indiana Fever away games against the Chicago Sky and the Washington Mystics dropped sharply after Clark was sidelined. Before the injury, the lowest ticket available for Fever's matchup in Chicago was $86. For the game in Washington, fans needed at least $41 to get in. After the news of Clark's absence, those get-in prices fell to $25 from $86 and $14 from $41.
Want more unfiltered takes on the biggest controversies in sports? Subscribe. We don't hold back here, but the context makes this even harder to ignore. Not long ago, Griner was imprisoned overseas under life-altering conditions. The U.S. negotiated her release through a high-profile prisoner swap, trading an internationally known arms dealer to bring her back home. After such a dramatic rescue, many believed Griner would return with a renewed sense of gratitude for her freedom and for every opportunity to play this sport in front of enthusiastic fans. Instead, her comments landed as tone-deaf and ungrateful to many, sparking a wave of backlash. Because here's the truth, those packed, noisy arenas? They're exactly what the WNBA has needed for years. And the very crowds Griner complained about are driving record revenues, increased salaries, and the kind of attention players have always said they wanted. Yet now, some are suggesting this sudden spotlight is unwelcome. That's not just controversial, it's self-sabotage. And fans, understandably, are being forced to pick a side.
Fans in every sport. She described the fans.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what sport you are. It doesn't matter what sport you pick. That's how fans act. In every arena. In every arena.
How quickly some people forget. That was the brutal reminder Patrick Bet-David delivered to Brittney Griner, and the sports world hasn't stopped talking about it since. As Griner aired her complaints about the so-called disruptive WNBA crowds, PBD wasted no time exposing just how tone-deaf and entitled those comments really sounded. He didn't sugarcoat it. PBD reminded everyone of the cold, hard truth. Not long ago, Brittney Griner wasn't complaining about fans cheering too loudly. She was sitting in a Russian prison. A terrifying ordeal that captured global headline. And the only reason she's now back in the U.S., free to play basketball again, is because the government orchestrated a high-stakes prisoner exchange, releasing a notorious arms dealer, dubbed the Merchant of Death, to bring her home. That deal sparked massive controversy. Some believed the U.S. gave up far too much to save her. But they did it anyway. Now fast forward. Instead of showing gratitude for her freedom, her career, and the packed arenas paying to watch her, Griner's response is to complain about crowd noise, to imply that cheering families might somehow be fueled by racism. PBD called it exactly what it was, entitled, ungrateful, and out of touch with reality. His words hit hard because they were true.
prison. You would think that somebody who is now free, back in America on home soil, would not have too much to complain about.
Think about it. Millions of people would trade places with her in a heartbeat. She was rescued from conditions most of us can't imagine, and now she's upset that too many fans are showing up? The optics couldn't be worse. It's a slap in the face not just to the fans, but to the country that fought to bring her back. And here's the kicker. These same fans she's criticizing are the reason the WNBA is finally thriving. They're the reason players like Griner are getting bigger paychecks and more national attention than ever before. Yet somehow, the message she's sending is that their enthusiasm is unwelcome. Some comments cross a line, and Brittney Griner crossed one that fans won't soon forget. During her complaints about the rising energy at WNBA games, Griner casually dropped one of the most baffling remarks yet. She described seeing a father and daughter cheering loudly in the stands, but instead of embracing the moment or appreciating their support, Griner assumed, without hearing their words, that they might have been yelling either about her performance or something she chillingly labeled as light racism.
Who they let out to get her back?
The
or
merchant
American
of
soul.
death.
The merchant of death. An arms dealer that wanted to kill American citizens, according to the reports.
Yes, you heard that right, light racism. Not only was this an extreme leap of judgment, but it instantly painted loyal fans, even families, in the worst possible light, all based on nothing more than her own assumption. And here's where Patrick Bet-David delivered another dose of reality that hit hard. He called it exactly what it was: unfair, irresponsible, and downright insulting to the very people who are now saving the league. Think about it. These are fans finally packing arenas, buying tickets, and giving the WNBA the spotlight it always wanted. They're bringing their kids, trying to inspire the next generation of athletes, and instead, they're being accused, indirectly, of harboring hateful motives just because they cheered a little too loudly. That's not leadership. That's not gratitude. That's pure victim playing. And here's what makes it even worse. Griner didn't hear what they said. She admitted it. Yet she still chose to spin it in the ugliest way possible, knowing full well how easily that kind of accusation spreads in today's media. It wasn't just a bad look, it was a reckless move that put good people in the crosshairs for absolutely no reason.
Smiling, you would be ecstatic, you would be happy, and something like this wouldn't faze you at all. The fact that it does is disturbing. I'll leave it at that. When it comes to Caitlin Clark, now I've taken hits, because I was calling it from day one. You got people.
Here's where Patrick Bet-David delivered a message that couldn't be ignored, and one that left many wondering if Brittney Griner truly understands what it means to be a professional athlete. PBD didn't hold back. He highlighted the absurdity of it all, a player complaining that fans are too excited at a sporting event. Let that sink in. The entire purpose of professional sports is entertainment. Fans show up to cheer, yell, and live the game with passion. That's the point. It's why they buy the tickets, wear the jerseys, and keep the league alive. Without them, the sport collapses. Yet here was Griner, acting as though fan enthusiasm was some kind of problem. The tone was clear. She'd rather the stands be half empty and quiet than deal with the energy and expectations that come with a growing league. But PBD wasn't about to let that mindset slide. He reminded viewers, and Griner, that this isn't a private pickup game at the local gym. This is professional basketball. Players are entertainers, fans are customers, and when those customers are finally showing up in record numbers, the last thing any athlete should do is shame them for being too passionate. Even worse, Griner's stance completely ignored what this moment means for the WNBA. After years of struggling to gain attention, the league is finally experiencing packed arenas and mainstream buzz, something athletes in any sport would kill for. And instead of celebrating it, Griner is publicly dragging the very thing that's giving her a bigger paycheck. But that wasn't the whole story, because what came next revealed just how unprepared some players are for the reality of true success. Timing is everything, and Brittney Griner couldn't have picked a worse moment to lash out at the league's growing fan base. While she was busy complaining about noise and so-called racism in the stands, the WNBA was hitting new heights, all thanks to one player, Caitlin Clark. Clark's impact on the league isn't just hype. It's undeniable. Since her arrival, ticket sales have skyrocketed. Media deals that once seemed impossible for women's basketball are now being signed left and right. The league is projected to reach $1 billion valuation for the first time ever, and Clark is the face driving that wave. And here's the shocking part, Griner's comments came right in the middle of this historic surge. As the league is finally drawing massive crowds and national attention, she's out here criticizing the very fans making it all possible. If anything, it exposed just how disconnected some veteran players are from the new reality of professional sports. PBD wasted no time calling this out. He reminded everyone, this is what success looks like. Crowded arenas, passionate fans, and pressure to perform are not problems, they're the dream. Yet here was Griner treating them like some kind of burden. And what made it even worse, when Caitlin Clark was sidelined with an injury, the entire house of cards was exposed. Ticket prices for games without her plummeted overnight. That's how much she means to the league's bottom line, and just how little pull players like Griner have without her. If anyone still doubted who was carrying the WNBA's newfound success, Caitlin Clark's injury erased all questions instantly. The moment she went down, the league felt it. And not just on the court, where it really hurt was in the wallet. Ticket prices collapsed. Games that were sold out or going for premium prices just days earlier suddenly had seats going for next to nothing. In Chicago, tickets dropped from $86 to $25. In Washington, they fell from $41 to just $14. That's not a slight dip, that's a total freefall. And here's why this exposed so much. For weeks, players like Brittney Griner had been whining about the problems that came with new fans and loud crowds. But the second Clark was out, the same crowds they resented vanished. The demand disappeared overnight. That's how much Caitlin Clark means to the league, and how little some of its loudest critics understand about business. PBD wasted no time pointing this out. The numbers don't lie. Clark is the reason for the sold-out arenas, the national headlines, and the media deal. Without her, the WNBA is right back where it was, struggling for attention and hoping people even show up. So when Griner and others complain about the negative effects of this attention, they're exposing themselves. Because without it, without Clark, they'd be back to playing in front of empty seats, for lower pay, and with zero spotlight. That's the cold truth they refuse to admit. Some players tried to spin the story one way, but Patrick Bet-David wasn't about to let them rewrite reality. He addressed the racial undertones in this debate head-on, with the kind of honesty few in the media are willing to show. Yes, he acknowledged what some won't say out loud, maybe Caitlin Clark's race plays a role in the media attention. But here's what they don't want to admit, it's her undeniable talent, her thrilling style of play, and her massive impact on the league that truly drive the headline. Let's be real, fans don't flood arenas because of someone's skin color. They show up to be entertained, to witness something special, and Clark is delivering that in ways the WNBA has never seen. She pulls up from anywhere on the court. She passes with flash and precision. She competes with fire, and the casual sports fan eats that up. That's why she's bringing new eyeballs to the league. That's why tickets are selling. That's why networks are suddenly writing bigger checks for WNBA game. And that's exactly what PBD exposed. The players trying to frame this as a racial issue are ignoring the cold hard truth. Fans pay to watch greatness, period. Clark is giving them that. If another player could match her level of showmanship and impact, they'd be getting the same attention. But they aren't. And instead of leveling up their game, some players are choosing to complain. It gets even worse when you look at the numbers. Ticket sales, viewership, merchandise, every single metric proves that Clark is the engine driving the league's success. Without her, the hype vanishes, the seats empty out, the excuses start flowing. And PBD called it exactly what it is, jealousy disguised as social commentary. Because here's the most uncomfortable truth of all, if race alone determined stardom, the WNBA would have been booming long before Clark arrived. The league has had incredible black athletes for decades. Many of them are legends, and deservedly so. But none of them, even at their peak, brought the kind of mainstream buzz Clark is bringing. That's not about race, that's about market reality, about star power, about timing. And the more these players attack Clark for things outside her control, the more obvious their resentment becomes. Instead of embracing the new fans, instead of rising to the occasion, some are dragging the league's momentum down with toxic narratives that only alienate the very audience the WNBA desperately needs. PBD made it clear, players can't have it both ways. You can't demand the salaries, the endorsements, and the national spotlight of a major league, while expecting the calm, low-pressure atmosphere of a private scrimmage. That's not how the real world works. Yet that's what Griner's words reveal. Her vision of a peaceful WNBA, where crowds stay subdued and expectations stay low, perfectly explains why the league failed to connect with mainstream sports fans for decades. Fans don't pay top dollar to sit in silence. They come to cheer, to boo, to feel the intensity of the game. That's what makes sports thrilling. Without that energy, you don't have a league, you have an empty gym. And here's the most damaging part. Griner isn't just rejecting the noise, she's rejecting the very growth players have spent years begging for. Now that the WNBA finally has packed arenas, primetime games, and soaring ticket sales, comments like hers threaten to drag it all backward. Think Brittney Griner crossed the line with these comments? Drop your thoughts below, and subscribe for more content they don't want you to see. PBD exposed this perfectly. If players want NBA-level rewards, they need to embrace NBA-level pressure. That means packed arenas. That means scrutiny. That means the roar of the crowd pushing you to perform. Wishing for a quieter league is wishing for irrelevance, and fans won't stick around if they feel unwelcome. There's no hiding from it. If you want the spotlight, you've got to handle the heat. That's exactly what Patrick Bet-David made crystal clear when he compared Brittney Griner's mindset to that of athletes in other major sports. And the comparison wasn't flattering. PBD pointed out the obvious: NBA stars? They face packed arenas, hostile road crowds, non-stop media pressure, and they rise to the challenge. NFL players? They compete in front of 70,000 screaming fans every Sunday, often in brutal, unforgiving environments. Baseball, hockey, soccer, the same thing. Loud, intense, emotional atmospheres are part of the game. And guess what? The players who embrace that reality are the ones who succeed. Yet here was Griner, wishing for a quiet WNBA, complaining about fans being too enthusiastic, acting as if players deserve the perks of a professional league, the big paychecks, the endorsements, the global platform, without accepting the scrutiny and expectations that come with it. PBD called it exactly what it is: unrealistic. You can't demand NBA-level respect and then flinch when the crowd boos or cheers too loud. You can't chase top-tier salaries while treating fans like an inconvenience. That's not how sports works. And frankly, it's not how life works. Griner's mindset, exposed through this controversy, revealed a dangerous sense of entitlement. She wants the rewards without the responsibility, the fame without the criticism, the money without the pressure. And PBD wasn't about to let that slide. It's one that Brittney Griner, and the rest of the league, would be wise to hear. Griner's comments aren't just tone-deaf, they're dangerous. PBD made it clear. By attacking the very fans who are fueling the WNBA's rise, Griner risks driving them away. And if that happens, the league's fragile momentum could vanish overnight. Think about it. For the first time in 25 years, the WNBA is capturing national attention. Games are selling out. Merch is flying off shelves. Networks are paying real money for broadcast rights. The buzz is there, but it's fragile. One wrong narrative, one wave of negativity, can easily sour public perception. And when a star player suggests that passionate fans are part of the problem, that's the kind of narrative that spreads like wildfire. PBD exposed this risk perfectly. Fans don't want to feel unwanted. They don't want to be accused of racism simply for cheering too loud. If they sense they're being painted as villains, they'll stop buying tickets. They'll stop tuning in. And when that happens, the WNBA will be right back where it started, fighting for scraps of attention. And here's the irony. The very platform Griner is using to make these comments exists because fans are now paying attention. Because the league is finally relevant. Because her games are being broadcast, debated, and discussed. Without that, she'd still be playing in half-empty arenas, hoping someone noticed. That's why PBD ended with one clear message: gratitude matters. Griner, of all people, should understand this better than anyone. She was freed from a Russian prison in a deal that sparked international controversy. Now she's back home, earning a living playing basketball, in front of fans who, for once, actually care. Instead of complaining, she should be celebrating every moment of it. But that wasn't the whole story, because whether the WNBA learns from this moment, or lets resentment and entitlement drag it down, remains to be seen.